Hello, and welcome back to Xpwaste, where we've done a quest or two. Hi, I'm Michael.
And I'm Oxie. If you're new around here, welcome. We're a podcast that talks almost exclusively about old school RuneScape. If this is your first time tuning in, you're in luck because we're going to be talking a lot about the actual game itself. Sometimes Michael and I tend to get off on tangents, but this is going to be kind of a more game-heavy episode, I would think. If you're not new around here, you know how I always bitch at you to not spacebar your quests? This is the time for that. Because we are joined by a very special guest. Special guest, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, I am Zoinkwiz, and I am the creator of the Quest Helper plugin on Runelite. So
You're everybody's best friend. Let's just get that out of the way. I would say you've made the game a million times easier, which is so nice.
Thank you for saying that. It's always good to get to hear that it's been beneficial to people. Because I feel like there's sometimes a bit of a polarization on it, where a few people are like, everyone's holding spacebar now, no one's enjoying the quests. When I like to imagine that's not what is causing people to spacebar quests. I think people were doing that when there was the wiki. People were doing that when there was Rune
Right.
HQ. It was, there's a lot to be enjoyed in quests, and if you don't enjoy them, that's fine.
Listen, Slayer music spacebars quests too. So
yeah.
if you're trying to catch up, like if you're trying to watch the video for Slayer music or any quest guide really, they're not sitting there reading the audio, like reading the dialogue to you. I think you're absolutely right.
Somebody, Rune in our recording booth chat just said, I feel like I owe this guy money, and that seems pretty accurate. Because the Quest Helper plugin's been out for like 5 years, right? It's been out for a long time.
Yeah, I think it was the first kind of version of it came out end of 2020. So yeah, it's about 5 years now.
Funny story about that. When Quest Helper first came out, I think it came out around the time of like Trailblazer 2. And around the time of Trailblazer 2 was when Jagex and the whole like Runelite plugin thing was still kind of shady. Like Blue Light was still out. All like the OpenRS clients were still out. And plugins like could be bannable. And I remember I was doing Trailblazer 2. I had unlocked Asgarnia. I was doing the Knight Sword, and somebody was like, dude, you got to get the new Quest Helper plugin. It like tells you what to do in Quest. I said, that's a fucking cheat client thing right there. And there is not a chance I'm downloading that. I am going to get banned. It's telling you what dialogue options to click. That's going to get me banned for sure. Not a chance I'm downloading that. And I held out for like a good month and a half till after Leagues was over to download Quest Helper, because I'm like, I can't risk it. I can't take that risk. So it's that good. I thought it was a cheat client plugin.
Shame you missed it for Leagues, because I feel that is the dream time to start using it, is when you're just going through all those quests you've already done 20 times and just trying to speed it.
Well, that was my logic. I'm like, I've done the Knight Sword 1,000 times. I don't need a Quest Helper to tell me what to do, and it's going to get me banned. Not a chance. Now that is a staple. We rip through quests with that plugin.
Isn't it one that like standard just is on Runelite when you download it, or is it something you have to actually download?
It's still something which you have to actively download, just because it's I think in terms of lines of code, it's like 3 times larger than all the other plugins in the core Runelite client combined. From what I seem to remember, someone's telling me that when they looked into it in the Runelite Discord, and which I was very surprised by. But I think it's just the idea of having that then is just innately part of the client as you're downloading it. People we're quite wow. I think like Adam and such are just quite happy to leave that to me to handle and manage.
Right, absolutely. So there's a lot of different ways that we could take this conversation, but like the man behind the plugin is what I'm interested in, like who you are, your journey with RuneScape, how that all started, how long you've been playing the game. So like this is something we generally ask every guest, is like, when did you start playing RuneScape?
So I think I made my first account in 2006, but when I say I made my first account, that is basically what I did. I think I logged in for a Halloween event because my friend was playing it at the time. I was like, that was cool, and then I completely forgot about it until 2007, where I actually then started properly getting into it, and actually it's the same account that I've now used up until now, basically.
Wow.
Oh, nice.
How's the account looking? What's the account's name? Let's give it a little look up. How's the account looking?
So in old school, it's not looking that good. I've made it into an Iron Man. It's just my username Zoinkwiz, and it's done a bit of bossing. It's done a couple little Chambers of Eric. It still doesn't have a Bofa.
That's got 2062. That's respectable. 506 clogs. Shame there's no way to track quest points. Do you have a Questscape on that account?
I do, yes.
Thank God. I was going to say that would be the funniest and most ironic thing ever if the quest helper guy doesn't have his cape. But
yeah, I think when I'd actually finished making all of the quests initially, up until more and more have come out, and that I didn't actually have a quest cape on one account because I'd kind of done a bunch of quests on one account and a bunch of quests on another account, but never quite got the levels all on one account. So for about probably 3-4 months after I actually finished doing all the quests, I didn't actually have a quest cape.
Okay, so you mentioned in old school. Are you more of an RS3 player?
Originally, it wasn't until 2020 really that I started playing old school. Before that, I was just RuneScape 3. As I said, I've been playing since 2007. That's all the lore, the lore of the game and stuff was what really hooked me into it, and what I'd been kind of mostly following and participating in on the RuneScape 3 side of things. So, and in the back of my mind, I was just like, old school. It's just not got all the quests that I love, and it's not got all that. But I think, my count in RuneScape 3 is a lot more impressive, I think, because it's, I've just played it for that long, so I think it's maxed everything XP-wise. It's 200
mil all?
Yeah, 200 mil all. It's Sliske on the high scores in RuneScape 3.
How much did that name set you back?
I got it back in 2013 when they were doing the name releases or whenever it was. So I was just I saw the list of names they were releasing. I was just spamming the try and get it.
Let's go.
I got, really, really lucky getting that one.
That's crazy. So we don't have much of a context for RS3 achievements, but a couple of our listeners do. What are some other than 200 mil all, which is absurd? What are some of the bigger, cooler achievements that you have? Even if we don't get it, somebody who listens will.
I have a trimmed completionist cape with, which basically means you've done most of the content. I don't at the moment, I think, because I've not played RuneScape 3 for about a year. I basically did necromancy when it came out to try and rush for the high scores, and I can't even remember how long ago that was, but whenever that came out, and then I kind of just was like, okay, burnt out from that, not touching it. But I had a trimmed completionist cape, including the back when I got the completionist cape, it required you to have purchased full profound armor from Castle Wars. So I'd done that as well, which is no longer required, thankfully, but I had to go through the pain for it.
Wow. Jagex is retroactively making things easier.
Yeah.
What is profound armor from Castle Wars? What is that?
It's the one where the full set. I think it's also in old school where the full set costs 4,200 tickets, but you can't do the thing you do in old school where you buy it and then just sell it back. You have to.
Oh, okay. You actually have to get them all. That sucks.
Yeah.
I think they said in old school it was 400 hours or something, because there's a calculation for it to figure out how long it takes to fully green log it. I don't remember. Castle Wars ticket. It's somewhere on the wiki. You can find it. The wiki guys do wonders. But
really
I just looked you up just for laughs. I went RS3 high scores. Old school. This fucking guy's rank 11.
What?
Rank 11 overall in a game that's 25 years old.
Am I rank 11?
Huh? Yeah.
What?
Did a bunch of people get banned or something? I didn't think I was.
That's
news to me.
Sliske. Sliske.
Yeah,
right?
no, that is right. Okay, I guess a bunch of RuneScape people got banned. Well,
overall rank 11. Yeah, so I was gonna say it's not,
Yeah, up until the new skill comes out, whatever that is, and I'm definitely not going to do the grind for that. But yeah,
is there another skill coming out already, or is it just sort of assumed that that's how it's going to go?
I mean, RuneScape 3 releases one every 2-3 years, I think, so it will come out.
Fair enough.
That's crazy. That's really cool. So you put a bit of time into both games, which is kind of rare.
A bit.
Yeah. Yeah,
bit.
more into
Just a bit.
RuneScape 3, I think. But old school's been good. I recently have been just doing a group Ironman with some friends, and my kind of flatmate and a couple of other friends that I've known for many years. And again, that's now still terrible because I only started in January. But that's honestly, I didn't realize quite how fun group Ironman would be. The idea that you get that second drop of something and you can just share it with your team, and everyone's so excited. Be like, oh my god, a second zombie axe! Like that's the best thing ever.
Wait. So the account that's 2062 total
is a normal Iron Man.
Okay. I was like, you started that in January?
No,
you have your group Iron Man that you're playing. Okay.
Yeah, so that's considerably further off. I think it's it's still decent. It's like 1200 total or something, but it's very different.
Respectable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I play a group Iron Man as my main right now. So back in 2022, I maxed my main, and right now, like I played that account for like 6 months, got kind of bored, and then I've just been maining the group Iron. And one of my group mates is the other guy you're talking to, Oxie.
Amazing.
And he doesn't
as the
play
guy who's carrying the group, I must say it's really hard to do sometimes.
Oh my gosh.
So another guy in the
he's
recording booth chat, Fear, is in with us, and he's one of our group members as well. We are doing well because of the three of them, and I'm just sort of like,
right.
Hey guys, like, I can do content on my main. If you guys need like a carry, because I've got all the mega rares and things like that, but I also need things on my iron. Like Michael and I did a Patreon stream on Friday, and we did Yama. God, I think it took us 3 or 4 attempts to get 1 KC. I was on my main, you were on your GIM. We got 1 kill, and Michael's like, dude, this is not sustainable on the iron at the moment. So we went to TOA, and I was like, I'll go on my main because TOA on my iron is misery. And Michael's like, but you need the thread on your iron. I'm like, damn, I kind of do. So we went, the first 4 rooms for the first time actually went wonderfully. Normally, Michael has a history of dying in Akka and leaving me to do an 11-minute Akka by myself. But the first 4 were actually spectacular. The performance was immaculate. We get to Wardens, and I died almost immediately in P2. My prayer got shut off. I get hit by one of the waves, and I got hit by the arrows, and I got killed almost immediately. So I just had Michael do a little bit of P2, and I was like, all right, minus 500k. Let's go again. And we ended up not having the hardcore invocation on, so we had to rip it again with less supplies. But we did get the completion. So it's hard being the most talented member of the GIM team, but somebody has to do it. And in this case, that somebody is me. So
very valiant of you.
I know. I try. I don't get any respect around here either, So I gotta ask. I'm just gonna just throw it out there right now. Do you enjoy questing?
Yeah, I love questing. As in, I don't think I could have made the Quest Helper plugin if I didn't enjoy the idea of really digging into the quest, trying to find out like every option and dialogue option, and trying to just really delve into kind of how they're structured, both on the narrative side of things as well as the kind of little niche dialogue options you can find, and also the mechanical side of like the puzzles, and not the idea of kind of if you've got a box puzzle, it's hardish to solve a box puzzle, but then trying to make a general solver for every box puzzle ever is then a whole nother puzzle in itself, which again I thought was really fun. And sometimes you get frustrated, sometimes you're like, this is horrible, why is there not more information available, why is this so hard? But it's generally quite rewarding. And I think it's something which since I joined the game, I've always been involved with the kind of like lore community. Like back in 2008 and 9, it would have been on the Future Updates forum, on the actual official RuneScape forums, where there was a lot of people. Everyone was very excited about the lore, talking about, what's this mean, this line of dialogue, what's the implication of that? And then actually going and creating, along with a couple of people there, a clan which was basically just about focusing on like discussing the lore and talking about the stories of the game and what we thought was coming up, and writing up theory threads and incredibly nerdy stuff like that, which absolutely loved back in the day. So it's kind of all of that really fed, I think, into then making Quest Helper plugin, where actually, I enjoyed the quests, and I was like, I really would love to actually just properly dig into them.
Okay, now follow-up question: how does it feel having loving quests as much as you do? How does it feel to have made something that helps people ignore them almost entirely? Like, was that the goal of Quest Helper, was for people to be like, I love them, but you hate them, so let's just get them done for you?
So I guess the motivators were probably when I was starting old school, and there was 2 quests which really got me, where I was trying to read the wiki, trying to remember what to do in Taibo Wane Trio, and I had no teleports, so I was really newbie. And
that quest is awful without teleports. It's so hard.
Yeah, I didn't even have fairy rings, and I messed up one item, I think, with the bananas and the bottle of rum or something. And then suddenly I've got no run energy. I'm trying to avoid these poisonous monsters, trying to walk all the way back around to, get the bottle of rum, get the banana, try and work out where to get a knife from, and it's just suddenly that's taking me half an hour. And another one would have been then, I think the actual turning point was Regicide, where, you had to go all the way through the underground pass. Yeah, that's horrible in itself. I'd fallen 5 times on that rope swing, and I had to crawl through that horrible rock cave. And, I tried to do all the stuff on the other side. I thought I'd done everything. I grabbed all the items that the wiki said I needed, teleported away, tried to make the bomb. It says, oh, you don't know how to do that. It's because I'd not done the final thing where I have to click one dialogue option to make sure that I know how to make this bomb, because with the elf, so I have to go all the way back through the entire underground pass again just to ask this elf, oh yeah, by the way, do I know how to make this? And that's the only one I'm just surely, I've been dabbling with Runelite a bit. I've downloaded it, I've used it, but I'm surely there's got to be a plugin which just helps you with knowing where you are, rather than having to have your eyes on one screen, or if worse, you have a single screen and you're suddenly having to drag left and right to actually see what you're needing to do and trying to follow along. And honestly, finding that incredibly distracting myself, trying to do that, and find myself actively disliking quests when I'm trying to follow along a guide, because half my brain is on that, half my brain is in the actual game. Neither side is happy because it's just been split. And with then my knowledge of Runelite, I was okay, well, maybe there could be a plugin where it just keeps track of your state and lets you know what you need to do, so that there's never a situation where you're I'm completely stuck, the wiki hasn't accounted for my niche scenario, or I can't quite work out where I'm actually meant to be in this massive list. What do I do?
God forbid you do one of what I think are the 2 worst puzzles in the game with MEP 2 and Song of the Elves. If you get lost during those light puzzles, it's over. It's almost just teleport out and fully reset at that point. Even with Quest Helper, because I did Morning's End Part 2 and Song of the Elves on my main with the wiki, and then on the Iron, I've been okay, I've read all the dialogue, I know the stories, I'm good. I'm just gonna get through this shit as quick as possible. It's still a 40-minute section of the quest, even with the exact lines of where to go. So talking about going from monitor to monitor, it was rough.
Yeah, and I guess, to your initial question, I guess, of was the intention to allow people just to kind of spacebar through? It's not the intention, but in my kind of hope was that for people who actually want to follow the quest, being able to not feel obliged to look at a side thing, especially for quests where there's fail states like Taibo Wane Trio and such, where you almost have to do that unless you want to waste 3 hours of your life doing Unguided does. I don't know if you've seen his YouTube series, where it's just failure after failure, and obviously if that's your job, great, but if it's you're just trying to play a game because you've got an hour in the evening, it's a very different story. And I think most people who play the game now, being they're all late 20s, early 30s now, they're wanting to do the quests and do it efficiently. Some of them want to read the dialogue and immerse themselves, and in my mind, Quest Helper doesn't stop you doing that. There isn't a button you can press which says auto hold down spacebar and it just goes through everything for you.
Yeah.
But if you do want to spacebar, then you can do that as easily as you could have following the wiki quick guides, where it even tells you like what number you need to press in what order on the like dialogue option. So it'll be like 256, and you're just spacebar 2, spacebar 5, spacebar 6. And I think there's definitely an argument to be made that it makes it easier because you had to semi-engage your brain more to read the wiki. But in my personal experience, that wasn't making anyone enjoy the quests more. That was only making it so you're more pulled out of the actual game and you're more having to focus on something which isn't the game at all and just like someone describing what's happening rather than actually being like, oh, this is the game and I'm enjoying it. And that's thankfully a lot of people have said that they've found themselves enjoying quests a lot more once they've actually started using Quest Helper, where before they just feel really frustrated and annoyed at, like, I don't know what I'm doing here, I failed this puzzle, like you say, like the light puzzle where people are just like, what the hell, how could I get out of this situation, this sucks, I just want to get through it, to suddenly being like, oh, it's like I'm relaxed, I'm chilling, I've got some nice music on, just gonna like, maybe I'll read this, like maybe I'll immerse myself a little bit in the game and actually spend some time just trying to enjoy the content that I'm doing. And that's not going to work for everyone, but I like to imagine that at least for a lot of people that's helped them to actually find some joy in the quests.
People have actually said in the booth, I know Mithril Fork said that the Quest Helper has helped focus on dialogue, and then Kyrandia mentioned that Quest Helper does actually kind of convince people to do it, because we've all met that person who's like, ew, I hate quests, I'm not going to do quests, and the only reason why they do them is because like, I have to do Beneath Cursed Sands for TOA, type deal. So it's very motivating to know that you don't have to do them. But as two people who love a new quest, like we actually turned Quest Helper off for Beneath Cursed Sands because it took us so long to get to it. We made it to the jar puzzle and I said, Michael, it's like midnight, I'm turning that bitch back on. There's no way. But I think all the new ones, While Gothic Sleeps, Desert Treasure 2, A Kingdom Divided, that one was guideless for us. We've had a great time doing that. So I kind of appreciate that the intention is to make people actually like the quests from someone who has the same kind of like fervent love of the quests. Because I know Michael and I, we're kind of hoes for the RuneScape lore here and there.
Ever since A Kingdom Divided, we've kind of made it a pact between us that we'll try and do every new quest without a guide and just figure it out. And that kind of brings up one of the questions that I have is, so in recent years, the current Jagex moderators, like whoever's developing the quests, they've gone and made strides to make quests easier to do without a guide. Like if you look at some of the old quests, some of the things that you have to do make zero sense. Like you have to go all the way across the map, talk to this random NPC with something in your inventory. And it's like, who figured that out? Now, they're putting hammers in the general area if you need a hammer, or you can search for a crate and get runes that you need. Like if you're doing While Gothic Sleeps, like you can find the things in the area that you need. So you don't have to like leave, come back. Has that changed the way that you kind of like do quests for yourself without a guide? And does that make your life easier whenever you're making, like, developing the strategies for Quest Helper?
Yeah, I think definitely increases my enjoyment of doing the quests, because I always try to do the quest guideless myself before I start making a Quest Helper, because I want to enjoy the quest and I want to actually enjoy it. And the fact that, as you say, you've always got the items around, nothing's usually too obtuse in terms of working it out. There isn't like in the Fremnik trials where you have the poison salesman randomly that you have to talk to in Camelot, in Sears Village, and you just like you have no reason to think that unless you're following a guide. This all actually just makes sense, has good puzzles where if you think about it, you can actually see the whole solution there. Again, not like Morning's End Part 2 where there's random walls which happen to have colours in them which you just have no reason to believe they do until you randomly send a light through it and you're like, I've just wasted an hour of my life just not knowing that was there. And all of that definitely makes it more enjoyable for myself to do those quests, and I've really appreciated that effort from the moderators because I think it's the right way to go, and I think the kind of uptake of Quest Helper is an indicator of that, where Quest Helper's almost, as much as it can without actually changing the game, tried to make older quests more accessible and made them more obvious, and that people seem to have taken that up and liked that and enjoyed having that, and the newer quests not just being frustrating for the sake of padding time. I can't see that being a bad thing, basically. It's not like back in the day where they're like, oh, we've got kind of one person working on this for a week and we need to make it be like a week's worth of content. How do we buff it out? Let's make it that you need a random combination of items which no one will know about. It's
they've definitely adopted a more like modern way to do quests. Like you can tell you're doing an old quest because talk to this person, they need an item, go back to a bank, talk to that person, they send you to talk to a different. It's just like you're very classic, like old school, not in the sense of OSRS, but just like an old style of like fetch quest. Go back and forth, get some random shit, kill a random monster, go talk to them. Whereas in the new ones, it's like, hey, make this. There's a hammer on the table. I'm not going to waste your time. Particularly with the new Varlam War quests. I remember, oh God, what's the new Hunter Guild one that came out? I think I've only done it once or twice. At First Light.
Dawn. Yeah, that's it.
When I did that one, and you have to make the bed, and I think I just like held Alt for laughs, and all the tools I needed were like within a 15 tile range. I was like, oh, this is Jagex is cooking. They know their adult audience, and they are fully committed to making quests, not like. Because that's like the worst part. When I run around and do unguided quests, it's like I need a hammer, a rope, a chisel, and a tinderbox. I don't care what I'm doing. I'll wear like Elite Void when I do quests for the first time because I don't know when there's going to be combat encounters. Just sort of like nothing too heavy to run around with. It's been pretty solid, the new developments for sure.
And I guess sorry, I forgot. Your second question was, how does that impact the new kind of design philosophy impact Quest Helper development? And the answer is it makes it a lot easier because I think a good example would be Legends Quest, where for that, when you're going into the rainforest, the Khazari jungle in the south, you're needing about 12 different items to bring through with you. You need charge orb spell, you need a rope, you need a pickaxe, you're needing rune axe, you're needing all of these items. And in that sort of scenario, I'm needing to communicate to players all the stuff they're needing to bring and all the things they need to consider at every stage of the quest, for every step of like going through here, going into this hole, without also trying to take up their entire screen. If someone's playing on their laptop and you've got 20 items going down off the base of your chat, then that's useless basically at that point. And having it so that for more quests I can just be like, oh, just go here, and then when you're in that room I can be say, oh, pick up this item over here now. It's suddenly so much easier for me. Like I add in a couple extra steps just for saying, if you don't have a hammer, grab the hammer and you're sorted. And it also then helps so much for the players because they're not getting there and be like, oh, where's my hammer? I need to go get it again.
One of my favorite things about Quest Helper is when you're looking at the list and there's the little bubble, the little eye, and it says can be attained during quest. Like, bless. I don't have to search for this. It's going to be handed to me. Bless. Because as an Iron Man, you have a different viewpoint on doing a quest. You're not just like, okay, open Quest Helper, go to the GE, buy everything you need. You're ready to start. Like as an Iron Man, you open that list, you're like, oh God, what am I gonna, am I gonna spend, 6 hours trying to compile this list that I need for this Grandmaster quest? So it's really nice when it's just like can be obtained during quest. I'm like, thank you. One less thing that I physically need to do, It's pretty great. There is a small bit of feedback that I have now that I have you here.
Oh yeah.
This is just something that I've noticed when doing quests. And I don't know if this is just a limitation in the code, but if I have runes in my rune pouch and it tells me like recommended teleports is Varrock, but I'm not bringing like a Varrock tablet or something, it doesn't ever tell me that I'm good to go with the Varrock teleport. Is that something you've heard or you've tried to figure out?
Yeah. So this is something I took a hack at, I think, in 2022, but it's basically I wanted to create a system where I can basically consider any type of rune in any sort of container and work out which combinations you need in order to go to an area. But it's not inherently too hard to do. It's just quite a lot to kind of handle because you've just got combination rooms, you've got starves, you've got books which you need to be considering. You need to be working out what combination and what optimal combination of things to consider. What if, for not just teleports, say, sometimes you need to cast 10 spells or something, and then you're like, right, well, this person's got 6 lava runes, he's got 10 fire runes, he's got 20 air runes, he's got a couple steam runes, he's got 10 death runes and 10 chaos runes. Is there a combination of things that you can consider to make this work, basically?
Just check off something on the list, yeah.
Yeah, and that start considering starves and things like that for unlimited quantities, and suddenly with all of that, it's just quite a frustrating thing to try and go through, basically. So it's very much so on my list to, one, have it so Rune Pouch is considered, because I don't think it currently is. I recently added Group Iron Man storage because I was playing on Group Iron Man. So now if you hover over like the little eye icon on text which is white, it will let you know if it's in your Group Iron Man storage, your quest bags.
That's huge, actually.
That's awesome.
But with the caveat that it's only from the last time you looked in it, because unfortunately I can't access the state of it all time, but
I would
it
hope
still
not.
lets you know. Yeah. Yeah, I'm in your banks right now. But Rune Pouch is just another one that I need to add. So in terms of Rune Pouch, that's something very much on my radar of adding as like a container and handling the logic. But for spells, that's a long due one, I think, and hopefully if I get a good bit of time just to basically wrangle my head around it and work out optimal combinations and things like that of starves and books and all of that, then that's something I'd love to look at adding, because at the moment it mostly just considers tablets, basically.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, that's the easiest one.
Yeah.
Because you guaranteed to know, like, if you have a Varrock tablet, you're going to go to Varrock, That's cool, though. Put it on the backlog. It's not game breaking that it doesn't do it, but it's just one of those things. It's like, it would make it very nice.
Yeah, definitely.
That brings up a question that I've had for a while now, is like, is it just you doing all of the stuff, or do you have like a partner or a team or anything that does the coding?
So it started off as just me, up until my kind of initial release, and then I've had kind of over the years people pop in and out, basically, to try and offer, maybe one-off contributions. I've had people who are just like, I corrected the spelling on this for you, you misspelled something. And I've had some people who've been really great at helping with like some code restructuring, and like there was someone called Senmori who joined for a while, and he was a very great Java developer, which is what it's programmed in, and he did a whole bunch of restructuring, and he then disappeared after 6 months. I've never heard from him since, but he did some. Yeah,
we appreciate you, King.
Yeah, he left when he needed to. That's fine. And but then I've had some lovely people just throughout the years who've been contributing. Like I think Pagilada is how you say it, but Pagilada has been someone who joined probably about a year ago, and they've been amazing at making some contributions. Like some of the newer quests they made the helper for, so then that's great for me because I get to just go review the code, fix it up a bit, and it's made. I don't have to do the usual kind of multiple weeks of trying to program it. And more recently, they've been great for just looking over my code when I make it. So, often I'm not infallible. A lot of the time, if I write some code, there's going to be a bug in it somewhere. And they've been amazing recently for just having a look through it and just giving it that seems good, or oh, you missed something there occasionally. So I think in terms of actual lines contributed, I can actually check this just to kind of have a rough idea, because I haven't actually looked at this in a while. So for contributions, I have written 331,000 lines of code, and then Pagilada, Basil, and Senmori have written each around 20,000 lines of code, and then after that it gets more like kind of 5,000 lines, 3,000 lines, that sort of thing. So it's very nice to have those sorts of contributions these days, and like that kind of oversight from people.
Now, I can't code to save my life. I had to one time in a physics class when I was in college. I had a coding-based physics course, and it was horrible. We did it in Python, and it felt like physics alone was difficult. Physics and coding made it so much worse. Put into context to me what 300 plus thousand lines of code looks like. Because to me, that shit sounds absurd for a plugin for Runelite.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say generally it is absurd. There's a reason why, I think as I was saying earlier, that it's larger than all the other plugins combined in like base Runelite. But also, I think there's different levels of value to a line of code, right? It's where like one line, as like I can imagine for like your physics, for example, doing some incredibly complex calculation. Probably you've spent like hours sat there. Yeah, someone could make an incredibly complex line.
I was going to say, it wasn't me, dude. I'll tell you that.
But, someone in that sort of thing, I'm sure, there's whole dissertations, I'm sure, which have been written just to work out a really optimal line of code, which does some incredible stuff. And that's very different in value to like a lot of lines in Quest Helper where it's basically just me writing a step of like, go talk to this person. And, there's more complex stuff than happening behind the hood that I've written, but that's all then done to make it so that a lot of my lines of code for like steps in the quest and such are really easy, where I just write new like NPC step, and then I put the NPC's number down, I put where they are, I put the text where they're going to be, I'm done. And that is far, far easier to be doing. Like, still takes time, got to go get the data, but that's more just like, kind of admin, just hacking away, trying to collect information rather than complex, you sat down hacking away, which, I guess across 300,000 lines of code still is a lot, but it's not like 300,000 lines of really complex calculations and quantum theory and things like that.
Again, even with the comparison to physics was one of my worst classes in college. So, like, comparing the two is just comparing two difficult things. But just know that we appreciate the work. We do have a lot of questions from the recording booth chat that I've kind of seen come in. And this one, because we're kind of talking about it, Otis is curious if you're constantly tweaking or updating existing submissions, and what do you do when, like, I guess to kind of cover it, what happens when a new quest comes out? Because people, like, I know a couple of people like Michael and I woke up at 5:45 in the morning when Desert Treasure 2 came out. Woke up at 5:45, got online. Me and my idiot friends ran through the Lasar Undercity for like 3 hours. I was the first one to get to the Whisperer, and holy shit, that boss kind of took us by surprise. When we got to P3, and we're like, oh, you just got a one-tick alternate. This is pretty cool. 1, 2, 3. We killed it. No, you didn't. There's an enrage phase. Like, that took us hours to get through. And I know quite a few people who are like, I ain't doing that until the Quest Helper is out. I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole until Quest Helper is out. What does it look like to make a new quest entry into the Quest Helper? Is there like a certain time that you feel like you have to or want to wait? Or is it strictly based on like, I want to enjoy it and then I'm going to crank it out,
Yeah, so in my mind, I kind of have like a minimum amount of time I'd like to leave it before I make Quest Helper, because again, I'm wanting people to be able to enjoy quests. As we've discussed, most modern quests are really well made and make it easier for you. And like Desert Treasure 2 is like my favorite quest ever. It's an incredible quest. It's just, all of it is so good. And that's something which I'm not really wanting to just instantly make a solution for, which, as it can encourage people to spacebar. I want it to be almost a thing which someone goes, right, I've always spacebarred, but the Quest Helper's not ready yet, so I'm going to give this a try. Just, it'll be cool to go try the new bosses. So like for a Desert Treasure 2, I would prefer to wait a couple weeks before it comes out, versus I guess the the new kebab quest that came out in Varlamore.
Meet and greet. I'm less tentative on like waiting for that. I'm like, it'd probably just take me a week anyway to get it done, but like I'm fine to then put up a request to the core Runelite team to be like, yeah, can we just get this put in? So but basically in my mind, usually going into a new quest, I'll have a rough idea of how long minimum I'd like it to take, but that also doesn't inherently mean I'll have it ready by that time anyway. Like Desert Treasure 2,
massive quest, loads of puzzles. Lassar Undercity is horrible because there's like not a lot that you can do to kind of keep track of where you are in the quest unless you happen to already know just where you are in the quest from like your head, like just stuff like
that shit without a guide, man. We were down there for it was 2 good hours of just the Undercity.
Yeah.
On day one, it was great.
I think, for just context, I guess, for Lassar Undercity, I think that took me about, I guess in like actual hours spent on it, it probably took me about kind of 30 hours just trying to, because I had to create a whole new ways of like tracking state, because it's like where have you placed one of the force field things up at, and like keeping track of where the tile is that's been put down on, and be able to handle for like, what if you went on mobile for a bit and then you came back and you moved it, but I can't see that you've moved it.
Gosh.
It's just like where the keys are and if keys actually loaded, because then there's a lot of digging into where the loading barriers are, where it's like there's 4 zones effectively, where like if you enter from 4 to 3 zones it loads, but if you are like 1 tile out of that, then it won't load unless it already has loaded. There's basically loads of very annoying things that I had to do because there isn't information available, which like a lot of quests, just for context again, I guess, have like a little variable available where you can say, like Lassar Undercity hypothetically could have had something which is, if a key is available like on this tile, this variable 1, 2, 3 would be set to 1 to indicate something's there, or 0 to mean nothing's there.
And this is in game. It would have this variable.
Yes, so that would be like a JGEX official variable, which they transmit, and usually that's what the client uses to basically work out what to render. Like some objects, for example, or like if an NPC is showing or not, that's all depending on these variables. But for the Lassar Undercity, like nothing had anything basically. Just had to go on like what the player can see, which is like, have you seen this dialogue line from this person? Have you seen this object on this tile in this game session? And it took a long time to try and get that done. But usually I've made enough kind of tools these days that for most quests it's a lot easier. Initially trying to make a nice arrow for an NPC, working out where they are, handling multiple NPCs, all of that. It takes a bit of time, but then I wrap it all up in a nice kind of single line I can write, which is, where I just write NPC step, write down some bits of information it needs to have, like what location they are, their ID, and the text to show, maybe some items, and then I can use that and put it in wherever I want in the quest kind of sequence. Then in terms of, I think this is also just for one question that was asked by Otis, which was roughly how long does it take for a quest to actually get made? That is massively depends on the complexity of the quest. Like I feel the kebab one took me about like 6 hours just to kind of hack away, because it's mostly simple. There's a little puzzle step which takes a bit of extra time with the kind of working out the right sauce, spices and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, you just kind of talk to this person, you kill that, enter here. That's okay. Versus Desert Treasure 2, I didn't have that ready for a month and a half after release, and that was just because
I did know a handful of people who just refused to do it. They said we can't. They said we can't do a Blorber grind, and there's no quest helper. I'll just wait. So an interesting one that kind of comes to mind, talking about this balance between like meet and greet and Desert Treasure 2 was like the two little whatever. We recently had a GM, hard air quotes on GM, quest come out that's already existed for a long time with While Gothic Sleeps. What did that quest look like to create the helper for? It's not like there's a new story beat. Like I imagine you did While Gothic Sleeps back when it first came out, and you saw the jaw-dropping, ending of that quest and everything, and it was, holy shit, this is crazy. What's going to happen now? Whereas now we're 12 years out from the initial release, and like the code is different, I would think, unless it's not, which is crazy. But how did that quest look?
So I think an interesting one with it is that in the kind of code itself, you can often tell what stuff is stuff that they've changed to old school, and what stuff is like things they've tried to just like from the copy paste effectively, like variable numbers, for example. they tend to be like grouped depending on logically where someone like made them, basically. So you have like the state of the herb patch for the Snapdragon you have to grow, for example, in that quest. And all of the states of that, and having talked to this NPC beforehand, are all very similar numbers. Like the variable's number, which holds the state of the patch, would be like 1, 2, 3, and the next state for like if you've made the potion would be the variable 1, 2, 4. Versus then I think there's some stuff with the what's it called, like some of the dialogue options you have. The whole fight with Surok, which I don't think is in RuneScape 3 at all. Suddenly you go from being like 1, 2, 3 to like 10,026 or something in terms of like the numbers. So like it kind of almost tells a bit of a story of like where the changes have happened in the development process, which I think is quite cool. But in terms of then actually like trying to approach a quest of that scale, thankfully that one was quite a lot easier than what's called Desert Treasure 2, because it has considerably fewer puzzles. Like if you think in Desert Treasure 2, the whole what's called Abyss section, where there's literally 6 puzzles, 7 puzzles per like one of the 3 rooms.
It's just arduous after a while, you know.
And yeah, just the fact that each one that needs its own bespoke solution and all of that gets a bit long. Versus While Gothic Sleeps, I think there's a bit of a puzzle with the whole like temple at the end, where you have to repair the lamps and do the herblore puzzle, which the herblore puzzle was a bit annoying. But
was
also,
that new? Because I haven't done WGS in RS3. Was that new?
No, it's the same premise, except for I think in RuneScape 3 it's more frustrating because you're not guaranteed to get the herb ingredients and the actual herbs themselves grouped up together. So
oh my goodness.
But yeah, old
funny.
school it's simpler because it is just, you kill one of the ghosts and they drop the perfect ingredients for one of the altars. But thankfully, yeah, so I already had a rough idea going into that quest what to expect puzzle wise, and having only 2 puzzles, even if the herblore one was kind of complex and annoying to work out, because also, so one thing with making the quest helper is I don't have like access to like, worlds where I can keep just loop doing the quest. I need to, once I've done a step in the quest or done it on an account, I can't go back and do it again. So for While Gothic Sleeps, all of the different altars can be different for every player, like which ingredients you're expected to use on the altar, and even what's called like, I think attack, for example, one of the attack altar, it's not just where the attack altar will be, but it will also be whether or not the ingredients going to be dropped are the Guam and Eye of Newt or the Irrit and Eye of Newt. And all of that is stuff which, when I'm going through on one account, I can only see like, the state for that one account that I've done it for and exactly what's happened there. And I don't have too many accounts that I have available to myself to just keep going through While Gothic Sleeps. Like, it's quite a high requirement quest. I've got 2 accounts which I can feasibly do that on. So I've only got 2 kind of states that the quest can be in to try and compare and work out like what the hell do these numbers mean. Like, because historically all I'd be able to see is like the variable 1278 is randomly being set to 5. I'm like, until I can work out why or what context that has, it's just numbers at that point. It's and the only way I can get context is more runs through and being like, weird, like 1256 that was set to 2 on these 2 accounts, and both of them had the like attack altar in the top left corner, so that's maybe relating to that. And often it's, yeah, as I say, if I've only got 2 accounts, there's only so many easy ways to kind of draw out that information.
So do you have like a group of people that feed you data?
Yeah, I was just say, how do you get these variables?
So the Runelite client, sorry, I'll go with the numbers first because that's an easier description. So for the RuneScape Runelite client, gives you some like little coding lines you can do, which basically says get varbit, and you put in the number of the varbit, and it will then return to you the number stored in it. So like if this varbit represents the altar and which altar it is, they'll return the number which represents which altar it is. And they have a that's called like a variable inspector, which lets you know whenever a variable changes, which is great for going through a quest, because if when I enter the temple, that's when suddenly all the variables get set for the state of like each altar. And that means that then I'll get like 20 random numbers just come through with like a state associated with each. And at least then I can take a little picture of that and write it down. I'm like, okay, I can now hopefully do this on my other account and work out what I think it can be. And sometimes I'll also just try and do a bit of like guesswork. Like I'll be like, okay, in my mind, I could imagine like the attack potion's going to be the first one, followed by the strength, followed by the defense, because that's like often like a way that it's often shown in a lot of interfaces. So I do a little kind of guess, like, okay, I imagine this is what the numbers line up to. Like 1 is attack, 2 is strength, 3 is defense. And then I'll kind of look around the room, be like, does that add up? Is like, and I'm like, okay. And then also like the order of the numbers, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of the variable numbers. I'd be like, okay, is that probably, it would just go like clockwise around maybe. So maybe the first one represents the northeast, then the east and the southeast, and just guess that. And that turned out to be wrong. It's actually, for some reason, it goes from the southwest corner up to the northwest, and then it goes from the southeast corner up to the northeast. And that's one where it's like, it didn't make sense to like how I initially randomly guessed it, but it's once I worked out an order, it made sense. But that only really comes then from kind of data collection, as you were saying, where I don't really have many people who do collect information. Fortunately, we have like a tool which will automatically collect like your actions in the game. I think it's like an action logger, which was made by Pajlada, which is a plugin in the plugin hub. So if anyone ever does do a new quest and want to just let me have access to their data from during the quest, then please download that and just send me the file it generates, because
all right,
makes it a lot easier.
Wasters, get the plugin going. Help our man out so he can help you out.
But yeah, I mean, basically, otherwise, I just need to try and hope for the best, and kind of to a degree. If no one's given me enough information and I think it's right, but I'm not sure, then I'll, I can also just release the quest, and I will inevitably get someone coming into the Quest Helper Discord being like, "What the hell? Quest Helper didn't tell me the answer. I hate you." And I'll be like, "Okay, well now I know that's wrong."
Do you get that a lot? Because from what you're telling me, right, you're going into these behemoth quests with just like, F it, we're gonna guess. I don't know. Maybe it starts in the northeast. Only one way to find out. Like, I'm so curious. I feel like we're gonna dive really deep into the nerdy part here, because there's another question from our recording booth from our boy Tiki, who is curious about the change from, I think, Java to LUA when that comes out. But before we get too deep into that, do you mind do you do this for a living? Like, is this your not Quest Helper, but like, is coding your job? Because the fact that you're just like, it could be this, perfect. And I've not noticed a lot of issues with Quest Helper. I don't know about you, Michael, but very rarely has Quest Helper given me any shit. And when it does, there's usually a box that says, hey, if Quest Helper gives you shit, just open your quest guide or log out or something like that. So I've not seen those kinds of issues. So I'm just curious, like, where did the skill set come from that you have?
Yeah, so my day job is software development. So where
that tracks.
Yeah, adds up. So that's why I have a lot of knowledge. Admittedly, not with Java, but thankfully it's kind of once you have a rough understanding of a lot of languages, it gets a lot easier to just apply the same sort of concepts and things. Yeah, the reason I actually got into software development again was RuneScape, where when I was younger, I was just like, it's so cool. One day when I grow up, I want to work at JGEX sort of thing. I want to go make quests and such. So that's then, little kind of 13-year-old me at the time or something was then just like, oh, I really want to go make quests. And that's then when I started getting into computers and how they work and trying to understand just like the game itself. And then, went off to uni, studied computer science, and then, obviously found out that games industry does not pay very well at all and things, and realized that it's probably better not to get work there but still just enjoy the game. But yeah, that's kind of almost it all started with RuneScape for kind of leading me on my career, which is really nice.
That is cool as hell. Like I said, I don't delve too much into coding ever. Tiki helps us with all of the coding things. He's our IT guy. How about we say that? He's our IT guy around the house. It's a little inside joke for the boys. But watching him do that kind of work to me is baffling. And on this scale, talking about like trying to, there's variables here. I don't know what these numbers mean. I'm just going to guess. Oh, look at that. It's mostly correct. That's crazy. So just more to kind of echo what was said earlier. I feel like I owe this guy money. Yeah, that seems like it tracks. I am curious though, because Tiki brought it up and you guys, this is where I say it's going to get nerdy. Because there is a sect of people who listen to Xpwaste who are also software developers. We had, you ever met Ferraric, the guy behind the bot detector plugin?
Yeah, I know them. Well, I know of them. Yeah.
We had Ferraric on the show a couple years ago, and he broke out like graphs and shit for bots, and I like put it all on screen. I feel like I had no idea what we were talking about at some point. I was very lost in the sauce, but the people who got it absolutely loved it. So no need to like keep it super surface level, because the people who will understand it are going to eat it up. With the change from Java to LUA, whatever that is, what do you think that's going to look like, and in what context are we talking about that with?
So I guess I also need to work out what I can say, because currently all Lua stuff is very much so like Jagex hasn't released anything. We don't know what their APIs are publicly. We just know that it's going to, according to the RuneFest announcement, they're going to make it so that there's going to be a plugin hub so developers can start contributing via Lua to the official client, where hopefully there'll be some additional benefits which make it nice and easy to use. Personally, I do not like Lua because basically there's different sorts of programming languages and what they prioritize. Like Java, very much so, is very prescriptive. You're like expected to build things in a very specific way. They have very defined types. Like when you have some text, that's a string, and with a string, it can only be a string. You expect it versus in Lua, almost you can dynamically assign anything, and there isn't like ways natively, like without additional plugins and changes to it, to easily automatically detect whether or not you're accidentally reassigning a variable to be the wrong type, or have kind of almost the testing ecosystem that exists in Java for Lua. I would say Lua's usually quite popular for kind of game mods, because a lot of game mods end up being like kind of Roblox, where you have a lot of like kids and people are fresh to programming, don't really understand a lot of the programming concepts, starting to like work it out, and almost having fewer concepts such as typing helps, because they're like they don't even understand what typing is.
Okay. Do you mean actually like I'm typing out a message in the recording booth
correct.
chat, or do you mean like sorting by type?
Yeah, sorting by type almost. So
okay, I was gonna say, dog. Sorry. I know I don't know coding. How the fuck do you code without using a keyboard?
Yeah, you just look at it. You've got one of those like eye recording. I'm just looking at all the letters.
Oh
it's
gosh,
great.
Voice to text,
a Ouija board style. You're just looking around and making.
Yes, I mean more like kind of types, such as like having it so that you've got these defined structures of data and like what you expect them to mean. So like you have strings, which are text basically, and you have integers, so kind of numbers, and you have different types of numbers, which you can go into if you're trying to be fancy with your allocation of data, but ignore that. And booleans, which are basically just on and off as a concept, and those sorts of ideas, which again, if you never touch programming, you don't know what a boolean means probably. Versus
I know what it means in the sense of like cooking. You know, those
Yeah.
little bouillon cubes.
Yeah,
That's
oh,
nice
that's delicious.
Adds a lot of flavor, yeah, but not in the sense of coating. No.
But then it's just quite. As someone who then does understand coding and knows what these things are, and like they're almost like a toolbox of useful tools, that's annoying and frustrating to then have taken away from you. To be like, okay, all these checks and like, you know, things which you can trip yourself over on if you don't know what they're about, but if you do know what you're doing, you can use to great effect. Suddenly you don't have that available to you anymore when you're with Lua natively. This is also caveat being partly because of my dislike of it. I've not done a lot of Lua, so if I do spout any slander to Lua which is unwarranted, apologies. I'm sure people will let us know. But versus, I feel, for newer developers, people who are just trying to make a mod, it makes a lot more sense because the less tools you have, the less things you can trip yourself up on, almost. The less things, like that barrier of entry of like, oh god, I don't even know what half these words mean. They're just like, type in the thing you want it and chances are it will work. If you type in a number to be assigned to this, it will just work.
It reminds me, Michael, of going from Premiere Pro to Wondershare.
Yeah.
Where it where Premiere is super finicky and can get really ugly if you mess it up. But then once you know how to do it, it's relatively straightforward. And then going back to Wondershare, where it's like, oh, I can't, like move a clip without the entire thing snapping to its position. Because if I turn off snapping, it will just like fuck the entire video. Whereas in Premiere you have a lot more like specific control. So that sounds, in a way, that sounds frustrating. Now, I've kind of heard through the grapevine of friends who know how to code that Java is old as shit when it comes to coding. Like, Java is the old grandpa of programs, and I am surprised that the structure, like, does the structure hold it back sometimes versus like a C++?
Well, I guess, C++ is also quite old, is one thing with it. But like, as in, sorry.
It's the new thing they put on Steam, so that's what I compared it to. I have no idea.
It's like C++
I imagine it's more complex than like Python, but I don't know. I genuinely don't know.
So I guess with Java, it is very old. And I think one of the major things that people don't like about it is, one, you need to almost make a lot of scaffolding basically to get stuff going. So like if you want a really simple application, like you just want it to put up hello world on your screen or something, you're not just writing like one line in a text file saying print hello world. You're having to create like a whole class. You're making a main function inside of that. You're probably needing to download a couple of libraries. It's basically, there's a lot of things and which you need to set up in order to make it work, where it's expecting this kind of scaffolding, which makes it very kind of bulky at times in terms of the amount you have to write versus the amount you're trying to do, which to a degree is like, sometimes for like simple stuff, if you just want to make a prototype or something, can be frustrating because it means you just have to type loads before you get anything going. But also it can be quite good because it means that you've got very explicit control over what's happening and you have methods available to you because there's so much of it basically that you can do most things with Java. A second thing that people really don't like is the level of like bloat in it. So just again, it's been about for so many years. There's almost like 10 different ways to do some stuff, and each time they release a new Java version, they'll release a new way sometimes to do something which people have already been doing because they're like, this will be people will like to do it this new way. But that then can be frustrating for learning because you're like, what's like the best way to actually do this thing? Like, if I want to loop through 10 things, how should I do that? Should I use something called like a stream, which is basically like you do one line where you say like, it doesn't really matter, I guess, what it's actually doing, but it's just you do like the thing dot stream and do some processing on it? Or do you do a for loop where you just kind of say for 0 to 10 loop through this array that many times and do something each time? Do you do a for each, which is again another method they have, which lets you just basically loop through every element inside of it without specifying the size? There's more and more things just over the years they've added and incremented on, which can be nice because sometimes each of those does have its own niche kind of best place to use it, but a lot of the time it's just makes it more confusing unless you're like really deep in the weeds of Java, which I don't think most people really want to be. They'd rather do a more exciting programming language like Go or something.
Okay.
Dang. I didn't understand any of that, but I'm sure somebody did. It's so very interesting, like I equate it to, you take the Apple approach to UX, or you take the non-Apple approach, the Android PC, whatever. Apple has made tools and software that just like, hey, if you just want this to work, it works. Whereas they don't give you very much control over what you can and can't do. But if you're on a PC or an Android or something where it's open source, you have a lot more control, and you can kind of get into the nitty gritty. Some of the more recent coding languages probably take that that Apple approach to, you don't necessarily need to do this. We're just going to make it easier for you to get the things you want to get done. Whereas the older approach is like, you have to build it all from scratch by yourself to do something very, very simple.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to look at it, which is interesting generally, because I think in the studies of like kind of tech literacy, which have come out over the years, is like more and more people aren't growing up, like I would have, I guess, or like a computer with big windows and trying to go through folders and almost tech support yourself when inevitably something breaks. Yeah. Versus
we all seem about the same late 20, early 30s ish age. Like I was born in 96. I'm 28. Gonna be 29 here soon. We had computer classes that were partially learning to work the Microsoft Office suite, but also partially like, hey, find the file. Go find it. It's somewhere on your computer. Go find it. And it was just like, go to File Explorer and search the name of the file, and then boom, it pops up, and you have to write down like what the path was to get there. So it'd be like, my computer C drive downloads pictures files or whatever it was. Like there was like a written assignment that we had to do to find where the files were. So that's kind of crazy to me that in the tech age we're not really doing that anymore. But
yeah, well, I think most people from, again, the study that I saw, it was that most people, quite a large amount of kids these days will have only ever used like handheld devices. They won't have used laptops and such, depending on which country you are. Like maybe different in America. I think this is in the UK. And because of that, they don't even necessarily understand what file structures are. They don't even know that, something to search unless it's, in your photos or something. And all of these concepts suddenly become considerably harder when you don't even have those base things that you've just like learned through kind of having to live life almost. And I feel that often kind of making things as simple as you can, like Lua does, is beneficial for that. It's kind of like the kind of Quest Helper makes Quest more accessible. That makes coding more accessible because it's more just like you're able to just put anything in and it's going to work, and you're not scared by 100 different random words and big errors being thrown up, being like everything's failing.
Well, I don't know if that's a fair comparison because Quest Helper doesn't make it so every single option works.
Oh, yeah.
Quest Helper doesn't break the mainframe and saying like, yeah, fucking say whatever. I don't know. They're going to give you the item no matter what. Like there's still a very specific path that you have to follow. Could you imagine if it was like, you need the red key from the first door of the Lesser Undercity, but because you have Quest Helper, you can just unlock the thing, get the fancy torch, burn the shit down, and go fight the Whisperer. Like that is that's what I'm gathering from this whole like Lua coding conversation is like following. I hate to say, God, this sounds like Boomerscape, Jesus Christ, but like following the steps to ensure you do the thing correctly versus like here it's done,
Yeah, I guess I think Lua wouldn't also work in this scenario like just with anything is the main thing. So it's not that you could just put your face in the keyboard and something's going to happen when you take your face off and hit play. It's you still have to type in numbers if you want a number to be used. You still got to type in the right numbers to make sure it's working okay and things like that. And it's almost for Lua, almost I think the problems come as you get a bigger project where you don't have all of the kind of scaffolding that Java does and the automatic checks and tests and kind of warnings that usually get thrown up and are a bit scary, because suddenly something's going to go wrong and you've got almost nothing before that point which has hinted something's going wrong. And if you get stuck in that sort of situation, which with the kind of dabbling and messing with Lua I've gotten into that situation, then you're like, I don't even know where to start looking. It's just more frustrating almost at that stage. I think was there a question also in the chat from Otis, do you have a supercomputer or can you code on a potato? Which I think actually the answer is you could probably code on a potato if you got one of the ones where it's like the potato is a battery. It's like, depending on what you're trying to code and what you're trying to do coding, all you actually need is a text editor. Like, usually you want a smart one which is like, doing little checks for you to make sure you're spelling stuff right and things, same as almost for any writing, you want something which helps you do it and structure it nicely. But really you could open Notepad in Windows and just type code, hit save, and just run that somewhere. Maybe not on your own computer if it's a potato, but on someone else's computer you could upload it to the Runelite plugin hub or something if it works, and that's fine. And that's because coding really is, unless you're doing vibe coding, whatever it is these days, where people are just putting stuff into AI and calling it coding, then you do just need to be able to write words. It's kind of just knowing the right words to put in. I've always liked when people have said it's kind of like magic spells, where as long as you know the right incantation to say or the right thing to write down in your script, then you can make anything happen in it.
Trust me, as someone with no innate magical talent, that's what it feels like. That's 100% what it feels like. I don't know. I'm trying to look at like thinking about other plugins on Runelite, where I look at it and think, how the fuck do you know that? Like what? Like how do you know that about what's going on in the game, or just what's like in my bank or whatever? I know some of it makes sense, like banked XP. All I gotta do is open my bank and it just insta scans for all the resources and things like that. With some of it makes sense, I guess, because it's just tracking numbers. But I don't know. It is basically akin to magic to me in a lot of ways, how some of this stuff works.
Well, I think, the main magician in this scenario is the likes of Adam and Abex, so the creators of Runelite, where they've gone into actual ones and zeros basically and managed to interpret what those ones and zeros are and what you've downloaded to work out then how to make nice interfaces for developers like myself to be like, okay, we're going to read those ones and zeros for you that we've worked out what they actually magically mean, and we're going to just give you a nice number for when you ask what the size of the bank is. And that means that for a developer like myself, I can just go, they have documentation on their website, and I can just look at the code they've written themselves and go okay, it might take a while for me to understand what on earth, what arcane things they've done, but eventually you can understand, because they've tried to make it legible. But as programmers, they want to use words which describe the thing that it's going to do. Somewhere they'll have get bank value or something. As I don't think that is a function, but that's an example. They'd have something which just says get bank value, and they'd be like, okay, I think I have an idea what that's probably going to do. It's probably going to get the bank value. And they're right, it returns a number. They might even have some text describing it if I'm lucky, being like, this returns the bank value. And then I go, okay, great. In my code editor now, in my text editor, I can just write in get bank value, and that should then hopefully just give me the value of the number. So I would say kind of thankfully from a plugin developer's perspective, it's not too horrific for most things. Sometimes there's niche things that I've wanted to try and do where I then have to do a couple horrible things, but for the most part, thankfully, incredible legends such as them both have done a lot of the really in-depth technical stuff to then make it nice and accessible to developers.
So there are different levels of magic, and we do actually, in fact, have 2 archmages, is what I'm hearing. Where like some of our more advanced wizards, like Zoink here, can do most of the things based on the archwizard's teachings, but they are no archmage themselves yet. And then the lowly, non-magical peasant folk like Michael and I have. We're the people who are like, there's something funny going up in that tower. Couldn't tell you what it is, but there's something funny going on in there. We're the farmers who have no concept of it.
Yeah, it's all just causing blue boxes to appear now, and you're like, oh, that's weird. Okay.
And we get it for free. All for free.
I guess that is another question. Like, I know it was a joke earlier. I feel like I owe this guy money. Is this like 100% hobbyist activity for you? Because I feel like Jagex mentioned Quest Helper. You mentioned at RuneFest or whatever. I'm actually, for the first time in a long time, I have a guest on when I'm not wearing an open Hawaiian shirt. I'm actually wearing my RuneFest shirt. They mentioned Quest Helper when Mod Genghis was up there talking about like how they're going to change everything over. So obviously there's been recognition by Jagex, but this is 100% hobbyist, correct?
Yes, yeah. So it's kind of all started with me just in COVID with a lot more extra time and just doing it like technically have like a Patreon, but that I think I get like £10 a month, so I'm not exactly sustaining myself with that. But otherwise, it's just been something which I've just kind of, it's been a passion project of I've wanted this thing to exist. I enjoyed kind of making a lot of it, and I just tried to maintain it for the community because obviously it's quite important to a lot of people.
I would agree. And I love that like there is a big community aspect as to what keeps you going, because like it is exhausting to do your IRL job and your video game hobby at the same time. Like, I'm a therapist by trade. I do the how does that make you feel work. I don't do any of this computer nonsense. So sometimes if there are like interpersonal things going on in the clan or in whatever group of friends, I sometimes feel very much like, hey, have you tried just getting over it? You know, like I do this all day at work. I don't want to do this at home with my video game people. But then to come home and do what I would imagine are similar functions. I don't know, like I don't know what you software engineer, and I doubt you're using a Java game script to do it, but it still feels very much like I'm doing the same things I do at work all day long. So it's very cool that like the community is kind of what drives you to do it, because that's kind of what I'm hearing. It's like people love it, you know, and I want to keep doing it because I love the quests and I love the people that do them. RIP to our boy 117. RIP to him, because that plugin was badass, and then he just like disappeared after that whole thing, I feel like. So I wish he would come back and work with them on the HD stuff, but I don't know. Either way, glad to have you working for the common man here.
Yeah, it's been good, and it is very nice. Like I went to RuneFest as well, and it was really
no way.
Yeah,
Hell yeah.
it was really sweet. I mean, there was actually one moment where I was like at a breakfast table, like in the kind of Holiday Inn that was in, and people were eating another one. I just kind of overheard them, and they were like going like, "Oh, you have to download Quest Helper," to like one of their friends who was like new to the game or something, and being like, "Oh, it's amazing." I was just there like, oh, like you know, never ever expected to just hear a random conversation, just like.
Well, I think we stayed at the same hotel.
Did we stay at Holiday Inn?
Possibly.
Is that where we stayed?
Yeah,
Well,
we were right there, like right by the train station, or like right by the airport.
yeah.
area. It's like a short little walk over, just across the street.
Oh, okay. Well,
That's crazy.
Probably glanced you then at some point.
I was gonna say,
Because we went to breakfast every morning.
It's like, was it us having? I don't think it would have been us having the conversation, because we were all with people who've played a hell of a lot of RuneScape. So I doubt it was. I doubt it would. Not that like obviously we can do Quest Helper, but I doubt it was us trying to recommend to our friends at this. We're so deep into our accounts at this point. If you don't have Quest Helper, you don't want it. You know,
they would have been like, "Why are you telling me this?" Obviously, I know that. It's
but it was a lot of fun to like be able to tell at RuneFest out in the wild who was there for RuneFest. You know, like waking up and coming downstairs and people are wearing like the Commander Zilliana t-shirts, and you're like,
Yeah,
I see
I see you.
You know,
See you.
we had a conversation on the tram over, I think it was the Sunday. And there were some RS3 players, and we were talking about Araxor between the two games on the way over on Sunday. God, Runefest was fucking great, dude. Because I was gonna ask if you were there, because it was great.
Yeah, it is incredible. It's hard to kind of put into words how nice it feels just to be having so many like-minded people where you're all just chatting about something, getting excited about the same things, especially when it's something which in normal life you just like, doesn't come up at all. Suddenly just only being surrounded by that is such a like amazing positive energy. Get to just chat, get some drinks with people, just like relax and listen to some cool talks happening on the stages as well. Was this both your first Runefests?
Yeah. We were anticipating there being one for 2020, and then obviously something came up, and the global pandemic hit. Couldn't do it. So I think we bought our plane tickets the minute we got the announcement, and then didn't realize Runefest tickets were a separate thing. So we're like, oh shit. That was a very stressful morning having to purchase the tickets. But we did manage to get them on the very first day and like the first minute before they sold out. That was a stressful experience.
Oh gosh, yeah.
No, I realized at 3 past that the tickets were on sale, at which point it was like they're all gone. I was like, how the hell? Like I did go to a few Runefests before, and the other ones it was like the tickets were available for months after they went on sale. Like they weren't being bought up. It was super relaxed. I was like, it'll be fine. I'm gonna buy it early just to get it, but it'll be fine. And it wasn't. So then suddenly I was just very much like, okay, I'm just going to wait for the tickets which people have put in their basket but not bought to all be released in 10 minutes time. So I was just there refreshing until like kind of 11 past came by. And then suddenly I was like, okay, tickets available, buy, go. But it's crazy. I think I was here. I think I heard one of the mods saying at Runefest something along the lines of, was it 2,000 tickets available or something? And
at first,
but then for those tickets, I think they had 20,000 people try and get them, which is insane to me. Like
20,000 people?
You're gonna need a bigger arena.
Yeah,
if we're gonna field that, because honestly, I thought the NEC was gonna be huge. Like it is huge, but I thought where we were was gonna be like, did you stay at all for the after party with the DJ?
I mean, I kind of didn't go in the room much. It was very dead.
You walked in and looked and went,
yeah.
I thought it was going to be like that, where there's like a couple of people in this massive arena. And I feel like that was not the case. Like, I feel like, especially on that first day, I don't want to say shoulder to shoulder, other than the GE in the first hour, but like, there were people everywhere at Runefest. And if there was 10 times the amount of people trying to buy tickets, how many damn exhibit halls are you going to need to have to field that many people? I did feel bad for RS3 being subjected to the upstairs. That felt kind of bad on Sunday.
Yeah. I'd been tempted to go look at one or two of them, but I didn't actually even know where to go for it. I was looking around and I was just like, it's not here. It's not here. I've been told it's upstairs, but where's it upstairs? But it was like a whole, like you had to go out and around, didn't you?
So it was by the Weatherspoons. I am a certified Project Xenaris hater. And during the Project Xenaris talk that they had, the RS3, like the art team, was up there doing a little thing. So I just like popped in and watched the RS3 like art panel and how they were like redesigning things and what the graphics were looking like. And there was, I don't want to say sad. There was probably like 30 to 40 people in there, as opposed to like when Arcane and Rice and all them got on stage to talk about like combat and like PVM and OSRS, the stadium was packed, right? But it was like 20 to 40 people who were really passionate, asking like really good questions about RS3. So I was like, I appreciate that they're getting this kind of very intimate experience with the devs. I don't care. I have no idea what's going on. They showed a picture of Ungale, and I was like, that looks nothing like the Ungale I know. And like all the Vorkath designs, it just looks different. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense to me, but I'm glad people are here enjoying it. So the RS3, like, it did have something.
Yeah,
You know,
that's it. The people who were there, they were loving it, which is nice. But it is
Yeah.
interesting how much the game has shifted over to having an old school population. Because again, like 2019's RuneFest, I'd say RuneScape 3 was starting to become lower on attendance compared to old school, but it was still like a kind of 40-60 split or something. Versus now it wasn't anywhere near. It was just like,
It was
as
like
you say,
90-10.
90-10,
Yeah.
Maybe 80-20. But
yeah. But then,
some of the activities were more based into RuneScape 3. I can foresee, not that like they're totally going to push out RuneScape 3, but it's still going to be, I would assume, an old school RuneScape focused event moving forward if they continue to do RuneFest.
yeah, I imagine you're right. As in, certainly like aesthetics and the sorts of like places they're going to be trying to represent graphically and all of that. Because
Yeah.
they're just, I would be sad if they didn't have anything for RuneScape 3, because there is a dedicated, audience for that, and they are, they're the most dedicated, I'd say, almost. Like, they live and breathe RuneScape 3. They love that game so much. They've been the ones playing for 20 years.
But, I would be a little sad if they didn't. Like, I have no idea what's going on in that game. I myself would be really disappointed if they didn't have anything for RS3, because even like they did like a penguin hunt or whatever. We were a group of like, maybe, I think at our peak we took up an entire row at the summer summit of people. So I think we were like maybe 12 to 15 deep at one point, all old school players, and people were like, what's the deal with these penguins? Like, what? I don't like. They're like, oh, is it Cold War II? I'm like, pretty sure it's an RS3 hunter thing. Whatever. And that was the vibe. It was like, whatever. It's a fun activity. I think the biggest thing that RS3 needs at RuneFest 2026, they need something to get people playing the game. We had the sailing alpha. That shit was crazy. A new skill, all the new sound bites, like getting to talk to the JMods who developed it. Oh my god, that's cool as hell. And then you could also play RS3 for some reason. Like, if they show off a new skill or a new area or a new, like, here's the alpha version of a boss fight. Like, imagine how hype it would be. Think a couple years back, or think that, the Inferno's brand new or something like that. And like, here's the first 10 waves of the Inferno, or here's like a part of the Soul Heretic fight before the Enrage phase. Or like, here's something to do, but as RS3 to get players involved, because I feel like it was like all of the old school players were over there playing. I think aesthetically, the more you lean into like the pre-2007, the more everybody's going to be happy.
Yeah.
And they did a wonderful job of that. There was some new stuff from old school, some new stuff from RS3, but it was mostly like 2004 to 2011-ish stuff just made in real life. And that was cool. I think the gameplay is the biggest part, because obviously the panels, you're only going to get so many people coming out to watch an RS3 panel, so it makes sense why they divided them up where they did. RS3's got to put like a heater out there for people to sit down and play.
Yeah, I think you're definitely right. Like, hopefully next year, again, I assume they're building a new skill, probably for RuneScape 3, so I would be really surprised if they didn't put a little kind of teaser that you could play for the next RuneFest, assume that's happening like next year or something. Like, I'd be surprised with how like in demand it was if they didn't, in a year's time, make another RuneFest. And hopefully there'll be a new skill, and sailing will already be out by then, so old school will need something different to have us all try.
I think that could be a ton of fun. Maybe that would be a new region to run around in, or a new part of a region. But I feel like, did you play the release of Varlamore at all?
Yeah, I had good exploring, especially what's good, the token hunt that was going on for the Varlamore
Oh my
release,
god, it's a shame Tiki just left. He was hunting that red token for so long. He's part of the Rune Hunters Discord. So all the token hunting, we were up to date for the yellow and the reds. Do you think that like sense of wonder and exploration that we have not felt as RuneScape players in a long time when Varlamore came out. Like, I remember I streamed it and running around just like in full graceful with Dragon Claws, not knowing where anything was, just talking to people, discovering new shit. That was a lot of fun. Do you think we lose that by doing it at RuneFest first? Or do you think it is more quote unquote special to do it live at RuneFest with JMods with your friends? There's a question for both of you, I guess. Like where do we think that would stand if they released a new area in OSRS? You know?
I think for myself, there is something special about everyone getting to see like a new area at the same time. Like having it that no one has gone there before. There's not someone who tried it at RuneFest and has already written a few guides on the wiki that now lets you know where roughly stuff's going to be. Like even for sailing, we got to see the islands and things. Like we don't know everything happening on the islands, but people have already made wiki articles describing like the contents of the islands. One of the islands had a new Calcott patch, for example, I think, and there's stuff like that which now just is already documented and people won't have as a cool surprise for the release. And in my mind, although it's really cool if you're at RuneFest and you get to preview that, I think it's a shame to take that away from like everyone to have as like a cool reveal for like, as you say, like getting that really hard to experience nostalgia of exploration going around, versus I feel like for game mechanics and like the core of what sailing testing was, which was like the mechanics and such, that's more of a like, oh cool, I have like a rough idea for it now and it feels nice, but it doesn't like ruin the whole experience for you. It's like, it's not a reveal that you're going to have to go do the courses because they've already talked about that, and it's not a reveal that you have to, you know, do the salvaging or whatever it is. And I wasn't like, oh my god, my mind's been blown that you click on the salvaging spot and you wait there.
It's wood cutting, but on the water.
I think I would generally agree. The whole idea of like you're seeing this for the first time, we aren't really going to get that, except for the fact that maybe they change things. That's what I'm kind of hoping is like we got just the tip of the iceberg on what is going to be available, and they just wanted to get initial thoughts, and then they'll still have things that are going to be a complete surprise to give people that experience. I know that there was people who chose not to play the alpha for those very reasons. Like they just wanted to experience it all as it comes out. Like day one, they want to sail their first ship when it's live in the game and not in an alpha. And that's cool too. You know, you have that choice to be able to do that. But, you know, for the people who did do the alpha, I'm really hoping that they held some stuff back. Obviously, we weren't able to like get out of the boundary on the area that they had available. But like you said, like all of the islands have already been documented, the ones that we had access to. There's nothing for right now, there's nothing that is going to be a surprise. So I really do hope that they held back, and like, you know, we're going to be able to have that moment again where we're like, oh my gosh, there's a bank crab. Like in just a few months, maybe we'll have another experience like that.
We really only did get a small part of the ocean though in that alpha, because I'm just looking around. Like I'm on the world map right now looking around. There's so much that we did not cover. And I feel like the exploration is going to go absolutely insane when sailing does finally fully come out, especially with them like having it in mind now for future expansions. Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait.
That brings up a question that I've been thinking about now that we've been talking about sailing. Are you at all intimidated by the prospect of like making guides and developing the quest helper with the new skill and all the quests that'll come out with it, and potentially them going back and like retroactively changing quests to include sailing?
I think in my mind, I'm aware it's going to be quite a large project. Like even just the one, well, we saw like the intro quest, like it's not too complex, but even something like that I know is going to take a few hours to put together, assuming everything is as easy as I'm hoping it will be. But it's in my mind, I kind of just think that at the end of the day, I'll have the time which I can put into it, and if other people want to contribute, because it's an open source project, some people have contributed new quests before when I've been busy in life and not been able to do it. Like the Eyes of Gluffrey someone else did for that. But if no one else is contributing, then kind of, people can get angry, but they will just have to wait until I can do it, because unfortunately, I can't make time out of nothing, unfortunately, and still have to pay for my life and things like that with my job.
And you also want to be able to like experience sailing too.
Yeah.
Like there's a huge, like, it's going to be a massive juggling back and forth of I have to do this thing, which is technically feels like work. And then you want to enjoy sailing just as much as everybody else does.
Yeah, for sure. So then, I will not just be the moment it comes out, I'm like, right, quest time. I'll be like, I'm going to go explore the seas.
Yeah.
I'm going to do that for a little while. And, when I feel a bit of downtime or just want to have a quest to do for progression or something, then I can be like, right, I'll do it once for fun and then once for like properly trying to go through it and testing it. But also, I'm assuming there's going to be some quests which come out with then sailing requirements, where then that's going to be a more interesting balance. Because again, I don't know if there's going to be a quest that comes out on release with like a 60 sailing requirement or something. But if that happens, then it's not just I have to make the quest help. I also need to get an account who can actually even do that quest to then go do that for a completely new skill, which inherently then is going to just add in a bunch of barriers to kind of actually getting the thing made and done. But then also a good excuse for me to then just do more sailing, because I have to.
Speaking of like having people help you, open source and all that kind of stuff, like, do you see like specifically, do you see people like Slayer Music as competitors, or do you see them more as like contributors?
Because we'll beat them up. We'll go fight them if they're competitors.
Oh, I think, because it's a completely free project, it's almost Slayer Music doing well doesn't mean anything for the project, because as long as the quest helper is still useful to people, then my job is done. Like, if it's the moment that something else comes out better, then I'm like, well, that's fine. Like, no longer need to do quest helper unless there's a specific niche for it. But I definitely wouldn't view most things as like competitors. I just view it as kind of almost, I mean, obviously for Slayer Music, he has income from it. But for the wiki, they don't have income. They're just trying to help the players. It's contributed by players. They just want to provide a way of doing quests which is helpful to the community. And likewise, Quest Helper then provides another way to make quests enjoyable, hopefully, and accessible to the community. And they're both almost working in tandem. Of some people would prefer just to have something on a separate screen and have nothing at all on their game. Some people are going to prefer to just have it so that they only look at the game, don't have to worry about anything else. And both people can be satiated, and they're not taken away from either experience by existing.
Yeah, like for my first quest game on my main, I don't think I ever watched a Slayer Music video. I think the only thing that I actually looked up, I think I remember, was the Song of the Elves Seren fight, just so I could see it. Because I got my quest cape like a week after they made the death changes. Remember back in the day when you died in an instance, you just lost all your shit? I got my quest cape right after that update and got killed to the 2 demonic gorillas during Monkey Madness 2. And at the time, it was my entire bank. It was like 9 mil worth of stuff. It was my blowpipe, my trident, because I thought magic and range were the best 2 options for the demonic gorillas. And I literally had to take a break from my stream at the time and be like, guys, I literally almost just like wiped my account. Like, had I done this a week prior, I just lost everything. I was like shaking. So I was like, I'm going to take a step back and I'm going to watch Slayer Music kill Seren. And that was the last quest that I had to do. Because I've never been able to follow along with the videos particularly well. Not that he doesn't present them well, but like, I need to go back and repeat the same section like 10 times. So for me, I've always been more of a wiki guy. And I feel like the quest helper versus the wiki versus the Slayer Music guides, it's just whatever you enjoy to make questing the most fun. Because Michael, you're a big Slayer Music guy, weren't you?
Yeah, back in the day, from like 2018, around when I really got serious on my account, all the way back into like 2016, until really recently with Quest Helper, I got my first quest cape solely by watching Slayer Music guides. And it would help me because if I had like an afternoon, I'm like, okay, I want to tackle Monkey Madness 2. If I could see his video was like 2 hours long or whatever it is, like, okay, I can dedicate 2 hours to this quest because if I'm following the video as long as it actually, goes, then that's how long the quest takes. So yeah, I got my quest cape initially with Slayer music guides. That would be a cool addition to Quest Helper, is like an estimated time to completion. I don't know if that's a thing, but that would be really neat. So people could just judge like, hey, I have like 45 minutes to play today. I can do this quest.
Yeah, I was just about to say that has been something that's been requested quite a few times. It just requires me to actually try and work out a good estimate for each quest. But that would be nice because then I could make a kind of filter, like an ordering, so you could like order by like shortest to longest quest, and then you could also then filter that by like quests you can do. So you just know the top quest is the shortest quest that you can do, and then you can just go through it that way or something, which would be quite cool.
That would be very cool.
I beg you, Zoink, I beg you, please, if you do that, please list one small favor as like a 5 or 10 minute quest. Just play into the bit, make one small favor like a super short, it's just one small favor. It's a super short time requirement quest. So the people that don't know are like, what the fuck? Why am I please just do it for the bit. Make one small favor a super short time requirement if you ever get to that.
I'd be very tempted to do that. That sounds very funny. I definitely get a lot of very angry people coming to me then, being like, I can't believe you did this, but...
Learn to take a joke!
Yeah.
That'd be perfect.
We're going to go to break, but I think that one quest that you should definitely, if you do end up like putting little inside jokes, just make people do rat catchers like super early. It seems to be one of like the most disliked quests for some reason. The Quest Helper makes it
for some reason. Have you done it?
Yeah, like I didn't see that like much wrong with it,
dude. It sucks with Quest Helper.
Well, okay,
catch all the rats is a miserable.
If you do it with a kitten, like don't go in there with a kitten. Get your nicely adult cat who can catch rats, and you're fine.
Still not very well. Misery.
But like I said, we're gonna take a quick break. We'll be back after this. We're gonna shout out our patrons. We're not gonna do all the community stuff this week, so we're gonna shout out patrons, and then we'll have more Quest Helper discussion after this. But yeah, see you guys after this.
Hi, my name's Dominic Onion. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about my newest endeavor, the Nightmare Zone. It's an opportunity for adventurers like yourself to come down and relive some of your favorite bosses, but in an unconventional way. We've got nothing but great reports from our adventurers who have done it. Here comes one right now. Hey, what's your favorite quest boss?
Honestly, I'm not sure. I held the space bar and clicked the boss. I couldn't even tell you. I've done like maybe 10 quests in my entire life.
Mine's Agric Banana. He's so funny. He looks like a banana.
Okay.
Hey, you want to come relive some of those quest boss fights?
Not really. I'm just here to buy some blood.
Perfect. I'll give you a tour. Talk to me, and I'll set you up with a rumble. You can fight all the bosses at one time. Kill the bosses, you get points. You can buy things to make your next rumble easier. You can also buy herb boxes and scrolls from my personal collection of paper. Give me enough points, and I'll use some of my onion magic, and I'll imbue some of your items for you.
You'll just like do this for free?
Of course not, adventurer. Man's gotta eat. It'll cost you a couple thousand GP per rumble. I don't think it's much to ask. So what do you think? Should I get you set up with a rumble?
Yeah, no. I think I'm just gonna go buy.
Perfect. Come talk to me. You can choose what bosses you want to fight. See what I mean? Flawless reviews from adventurers. The people you know won't let me inside, so I set up shop right outside the front gate. Come pay me a visit. Hey!
Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that commercial break because I know that I sure did. Now we are going to take a few minutes here and thank our patrons for all the lovely things that they do. Starting out, we actually don't have any new Wise Old Man patrons this week, or even in the last couple of weeks. So on the screen, you are seeing all of our current Wise Old Man patrons. Thank you so much to all of you guys for the support you give the show. We appreciate you very, very much. If you're a member of the Wise Old Man crew, the first week that we do an episode after you subscribe, you will get your name shouted out. So if you have not subscribed at the Wise Old Man tier and you're looking to do that, we'll give you a shout out. But every week after that, you get your name thrown up on the screen, for all of our love. And, we appreciate you. So thank you so much to all the Wise Old Man patrons. Next up, though, we do have some people that we will shout out every single week, and that is our JAD tier and our KBD tier. We're going to start out with our KBD tier. Big shout out and thank you to Six Sticks Insider. Just go for it, why not? Brooks70, Oxie's dad, my dad, all of our dad, my dad, Cloud Kicker, Dickie Bird, Dr. Muffin, PhD, Elite Oreo Dunker, Jax GIM, JX Riot, Little Drakey. I said Little Drakey. It's actually Lil Drakey. Our third favorite Patreon supporter, Ralph, Run Metal 15, Rylithian, Sparky Life, The Big G Jordy, and War Betroning. That is all of our KBD patrons. Thank you guys so much for your continued support in the KBD tier. We appreciate you very, very, very much. You guys are amazing. They also get access to the recording booth, just like you do in the Wise Old Man tier. And we have some of our KBD patrons now hanging out with us. Moving on over to our final shout out tier, though. This is the Big Bad Jads. These are the Jad tier folks, the new Kings of the Hills, if you would say, I guess. Anyway, we're going to give them a shout out as well. And, without further ado, starting out at the top, big shout out and thank you to Captain Crash, Flood Day, Kyrandia, Mithril Fork, Oxy's Under the Desk Bingo Relief 666, Petite River, Soggy Waffles, who is one of our more recent Jad tier folks, the S tier Deviled Egg, still holding strong from Thanksgiving. Thank you to the Deviled Egg, and Woloznik. That is all of our Jad tier folks. Big shout out. Again, thank you so much. Muchos smoochos to all of our Jad tier folks. You guys are amazing. You should be receiving another shirt at this point. I think we are near enough 6 months into the program where if you started out subscribing right when we, put this out there, going to get another shirt soon. So if you're not familiar with the Jad tier, every 3 months that you are subscribed concurrently, you'll get a piece of cool merch. And that's going to be sent to you directly as long as you have your address in Patreon. So we appreciate you guys. Thank you for your support. If you want to join these crazy folks and support the show financially, you can do so by heading on over to patreon.com/Xpwaste. We have a bunch of different tiers that you can get involved in. Shout out to the Gnome Child. They're the OG $1 tier. So we appreciate you, Gnome Child. That's going to do it for the Xpwaste plug. I want to move on now to plug Zoinkwiz. He's got a Patreon as well. Zoinkwiz has a Patreon as well. And I think, putting a face to all the work that gets done for Quest Helper, I think that it's motivated me to want to support. So if you guys want to support what he's doing with the Quest Helper, project, you can go to patreon.com/Zoinkwiz. We'll have the link in the description. But it's the same username as we've been saying. So patreon.com/Zoinkwiz. Throw him a few bucks. Tell him you love him. And he deserves all of the support we can give, because without Quest Helper, a lot of us would not have a Quest Cape. And that is just fact.
Not me. I'd have 2 Quest Capes.
I said a lot of us.
All you trifling bitches out there who are afraid of quests, who have been using Quest Helper to get your Quest Cape. If you've ever bitched about quests and then used Quest Helper, you at least owe it to him to go follow him for free on Patreon.
Yeah.
Because I think you can follow for free. I don't know if he's got any other social media, but this is you talk about top 10 hard carries of all time on Runelite. Quest Helper might be up there in the top 3, if not the number 1. So Get your asses out there.
Doing some work, but
I don't know.
Quest
I don't
Helper's
know,
up
man.
there.
But the thing about Zulrah Helper, it loses value. I've actually turned it off. I had to turn it back on to teach one of my teammates during bingo, and then turned it off again. I haven't used Zulrah Helper in like 1,000 kills, just because like
built different. Built
well,
different.
It's not built different. You just remember it, but like
No.
I'm not
I don't
gonna
have space in the hard drive to like try and suss out what rotation I'm on. I look at Zulrah Helper. I can't be the only one.
you
Anyway.
need to summon a thrall.
Patreon.com/Zoinkwiz to help him, show some support. And thank you, Zoinkwiz, for all that you do. I don't think we've said that yet. Thank you, obviously, for Quest Helper. It's been a massive help. We're going to talk more about Quest Helper, but I just wanted to throw that out there.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Of course. So there's a question that I've had that I've been trying to like squeeze in, but there hasn't really been a moment to say it. But like the biggest question I've had is like, you've been talking about Adam and the different collaborations with Runelite, and you kind of alluded to not being able to say some things about the plugin hub for the Jagex client. Like, do you have a level of like collaboration with these other groups? Like, have you talked to JMods about Quest Helper, and what can you say about that project?
So let me think. So in regards to collaboration with the Runelite side of things, I usually work quite closely with them these days, in that they've been very good at letting me know when like a like Quest Helper breaking change is coming out, and are really nice at making sure that when I make a fix, they merge it in quickly and review it. And because every plugin change, they need to check it to make sure someone's not putting a keylogger in and things like that, basically, which is very good, but it also often means, it takes a couple of days because everyone's just doing it for free. Everyone's doing it as a passion thing, but thankfully they're very considerate, and when Quest Helper is about to break or something, they let me know. I'll try and get it fixed as quickly as possible. They'll review it as quickly as possible I think we both benefit, because the Runelite Discord I know often gets spammed with people being like, where Quest Helper and things when it breaks. And they've been very good at just letting me know about like upcoming changes that will likely change how things work or will help with Quest Helper development. Like recently, Jagex made it so that Runelite had access to actual names for variables, not like the random numbers I was talking about, but actually associated with a number. You'll have like rat catchers, first rat caught, or something like that. And that's a game changer. I've not yet had a new quest where I have access to that information to build it, but that's going to be incredible. But they let me know like, here's like some code we made to allow you to more quickly replace all of your old code with like these new names rather than having these numbers. So it's like really lovely, like kind of helpful stuff from them, which just is incredible.
It's legit.
Yeah. And then for, I guess you're also asking for Jagex new client stuff. That's, I think they said in the Summer Summit last year that there was a group of kind of developers who've been involved with basically providing feedback, and that's what I've been involved with basically.
Oh, cool.
Just helping with
Very
that
cool.
And letting them know what things we want and just what we think they'll need basically. So nothing. No, like crazy. Like
You probably signed an NDA though.
Yes, so I can't say anything about
You got to tread
the
real
experience.
close.
But
tread lightly.
yes, that's been
very cool.
nice to be able to work on that though with them.
Nice.
They've been good.
Well, that NDAs suck, but they're also really important. Like, I just want to pick your brain about anything you know about the plugin hub and what's coming with the Jagex client. But I know obviously if you've signed that NDA, you can't say anything. But I mean, are you allowed to say whether or not you're excited about it?
Yeah, I think I'm definitely excited. I mean, even just from the stuff that Genghis, I think, was talking about at RuneFest, where it's the idea of having this kind of like well-optimized client with all these plugins running on it with active Jagex support, and hopefully Jagex would be wanting to enable kind of features and data to be available to the developers that aren't currently, and they'd work with developers in the future when it becomes available to make it the best it can be with the power that Jagex has, which Runelite doesn't actually be able to edit the code itself of the actual core game. That's like got a lot of potential in itself. It's and I hope that if it's done well and done properly, that really that should just allow for better plugins which do better things. Because the more information we have, the more useful function names we have, and the more Jagex approved ways of interacting with the client we have, it's kind of just then it's up to the developers how creative they want to be and what cool ideas they have for what they think will be useful.
Right. Yeah, I think when I think about like quests for the Jagex client, I specifically, my mind goes to mobile. So having some sort of like quest assistance for doing quests on mobile would change the game entirely. Because currently you either have to print out the quest steps, or you have to like tab back and forth, or like you can have a side window open on some tablets and stuff. Like you can do picture in picture. There's just so many jank workarounds for people who are mobile only that some sort of quest assistance with the Jagex client would be a game changer.
Yeah,
especially for the grandmasters.
Well, I think at RuneFest, I can't remember. Did they say anything about mobile or?
Yeah, so my assumption was that any plugins that come out for the Jagex client will also be ported to mobile. Like it's one and the same.
Yeah.
Maybe with a little bit of like developmental tweaks, because taps versus clicks and long presses versus right clicks and stuff, but for the most part, all of that would be the same.
Yeah, so I guess I can talk about this because this is just my own thoughts of like, I think that mobile would be very exciting for Quest Helper because, as you say, like the on mobile you're so much more limited in terms of how you can get assistance with the quest. So it's all the reasons why you'd want Quest Helper on desktop, but multiplied by 10, because you can't just have a second screen and you can't just easily have like other ways of following along. But it's been something which I'm like, okay, well, you've got such a smaller screen. How am I going to, assuming I have all the same tooling available as in Runelite, how do I actually display information in a way that is still useful to the player? Like, as I said, the Legends Quest example, where there's like 20 items you got to bring into the jungle, and if I don't somehow have a good way of representing all those items before you go in, then that's just going to annoy people because people are going to be like, what the hell? But also if I have 20 items going down, I'm probably going to fit like 6 before it's like already off the screen or taking up the entire interface. And in my mind, it's been quite a lot of thinking about, if eventually I get to start making Quest Helper for the plugin hub of the official client, how am I going to restructure the way that Quest Helper is approached from the ground up? Because I will have to make it from the ground up again, which is a whole other thing, because that's going to, it's like really.
You can't just copy and paste that shit over?
No, it's completely different programming language. There won't just be like Runelite interfaces. I'm sure it will be very different.
Oh no!
So thankfully I've done all the data collection of like, I now know like what numbers mean what, but I still need to make all of the kind of background stuff, and I still have to go through and translate over, and that's going to be like, I kind of in my head did like, okay, imagine like each quest only is like half an hour to like copy over and test, which I don't think it would be. I think most, if I was testing like Desert Treasure 2, just doing it is more than half an hour, but that's still going to be like kind of a whole month if I did it as like a full-time job to make Quest Helper over, and that's like an unrealistic scenario. But
so here's a question for you, because I have a couple questions about this myself in the most NDA way possible. Is that something, do you think Jagex will, or for the community section, do you think they should, Xpwasters? Do you think they should or will pay you to get it out on a release schedule? This is coming out June 2026. That's not a real date. I'm just making shit up. This is coming out June 2026. Quest Helper's got to be done. You got a real job? That's crazy. Quest Helper's got to be done by June 2026. Is that something they will, or again, do we think they should compensate you for? Because how does that work with? I don't know. It's just.
I mean, obviously, from a completely selfish perspective, I'd be like, yeah, please, pay me for my time. That'd be great. I'm not gonna be like, oh no, I'd hate to get money for it. But I also, in my mind, I assume Jagex currently they've gotten all of this for free, and I assume they'd want to continue to get all of the plugins, not just Quest Helper, but everything for free. And in my mind, I have the assumption that they would prefer to just have it come out whenever it does versus pay. But if I ever get offered,
they're gonna get so much shit though. Like imagine Quest Helper's not ready. Imagine Clue Scroll Helper isn't ready. Imagine some of the things that people don't even realize we use, like bank value or something like that. Imagine these kinds of plugins. Obviously, most of them I imagine are not to the scale of Quest Helper. But when have you ever gone from playing on Runelite for months and then either log into mobile or God forbid use the C++ client and you're like, where are all my tabs? Because it's not a fucking vanilla thing. Imagine if that's not done. Jagex is gonna get so much shit for not having these things that they said at RuneFest would be in the thing. Even if they didn't mean it as it's coming day one, right? I feel like that's a PR storm that they don't want to have to handle. So I don't know. It's definitely a tough place to be. Do you think, a more personal opinion than NDA related, do you think players are going to struggle to transition from Runelite to this new Jagex client over time? Because again, I'm thinking bank tabs alone. Yikes.
Yeah.
That's going to be tough.
I mean, see, if we're assuming they're just releasing a plugin hub, then I imagine it will be a very slow transition. And it's because, as you say, there's so many just basic things that we take for granted in Runelite that just make the game comfortable and easy to play. And suddenly, I mean, it's the same as before they had the menu entry swapping in mobile even. Menu entry swapping is huge, especially when mobile, where you're having to hold down and go down to the right option, and it's tiny little menus and things. It's that's just one where thankfully they have now it in it, even if it's slightly buggy still. But that banks having just all of the previously existing tile markers you have, they have tile markers, but I don't think there's currently a way to import your Runelite existing ones
tile
over
markers. No.
Which again, maybe someone will then eventually make something which makes it easy to import them, but if it's not out for release, and then you've not got your bank stuff, you've not got quest helpers, you've not got your various mini game helpers, you've not got your TOA score trackers, you've not got your kind of bank reminders, there's a lot of stuff which I imagine will put people off of trying it initially.
You're really, really selling the new client.
But eventually the idea, I imagine, will be that they want to have all that stuff, and then great, I'm sure it will run smoother, it will technically have better stuff, but
do you think there would be a way for Jagex to be able to import/convert Runelite profiles? Because sometimes Runelite profiles do throw me off if I have to sign into a new device or whatever. My Runelite profile is great. It's got all my bank, it's got all my tiles, it's got everything I need. It's wonderful. Do you think that's possible for them to do? Because I feel like that's the saving grace. That's the clutch that makes this community go, actually, okay, maybe it's not going to be so bad.
Yeah, technically down the road, they could allow for that, because at the end of the day, what the Runelite profile stuff is just a text file again, and they've got some text which says quest helper dot active equals true and stuff, and basically all you need is for the official client to check that text file and take all those values and store them somewhere. But you also still then need all of the plugins and all of the features that each of those little config lines corresponds to exist. for you to then actually, for that to even mean anything, because you can import it, but if there's not a clue, if there wasn't a quest helper, then it doesn't matter if you've got the quest helper toggles, because there isn't a quest helper to use them for. But I imagine in an ideal world, and I'd be really surprised if this wasn't something eventually available, you will be able to have these plugins available on the official client, because if they don't make it so the official client can do all of the things that Runelite can do but better, then I don't know, like, they have all the advantages, they should be able to do that. And they have the capacity to just take Runelite configs and reuse those, as long as the actual code itself is built to support that. But that will also partly be down to the players, because I guess like for Quest Helper, I would have to, when I'm remaking Quest Helper, I assume, make something which correlates, okay, I'm going to take this config value and I'm going to associate it with this check I have in the code, which says if display overlay is true, then, like, if it exists, then I display the overlay of, like, the Quest Helper info. And I would still have to explicitly go and do that as the plugin developer. So there's nothing JGets could do to somehow magically just know what the configs are trying to say. So again, it's one of those ones where I'm like, I imagine a lot of developers, like plugin developers, will want to make it so the things are compatible with the Runelite configs, but also there's nothing inherently forcing them to do that. A plugin developer could, I imagine, easily just make a new like the same plugin and use completely different config names, and I assume JGets wouldn't stop them. I don't know, but there's no reason they would.
Okay, well, good to know that they at least have some of these things in mind, I would hope. So we are coming to the end of our time here on the show. Now, with any other show, probably could just wrap it up, call it good. Thank you for being here. Not on this show, because like we talked about beforehand, we do have the last section of the show, which is the fun question. Thankfully, Zoinkwiz has brought a fun question for us. So, Zoinkwiz, do you have a fun question for us to wrap up the end of this episode?
Ooh.
So as a reference, I do that
You're
to
a
every
monster.
single. I am a monster. I do that at the end of the show. We do a fun question, and I feel like we never tell the guests about it. So I always just put you on the spot,
Yeah,
just
that's
for fun.
That is fun.
If you have a question that you have, and truly, the fun questions can be anything. They're fun. They don't have to be. Sometimes they're related to RuneScape. Sometimes they're not. Any fun question you can think of, even if you think like, oh, they've been going for a long time, they've probably already answered it. We don't care. Any fun question that you can think of. If not, not only do we have a fun question section in our Discord, but Michael and I might be able to come up with one off the dome too, just for our special guest.
Okay. My fun question would be, what PVM feat are you each most proud of?
PVM feat are we most proud of? I mean, for me, it's hard to not pick my cape. It's like almost 3 years old at this point, so it's a little outdated. But it's hard to not pick my cape. There's a video of me. I think Otis mentioned it earlier that like, you're gonna take opinion from this guy. He bought his Infernal cape, which is a running joke in the thing that I bought my first cape. It took me 112 attempts. And then when I got it, instead of celebrating, I cried. And there's a video of it. So that's fun. It's hard not to pick that one, because I feel like up to that point, everything was a new skill. Like everything was a new bit of talent that I learned how to do. Like first Zulrah was exciting. First Fire Cape was exciting. Those things were great. But then that first Infernal Cape, everything that has come since has been like, yeah, no, I get it. I understand it now. So I think that's it's not, if you've listened to the show for a long time, it's not surprising, but I think if I really do sit and think about it, that's got to be up there, if not the number one spot for me. I'm sure I can think of a few more, but what about you, Michael?
I think it's not like a specific thing, but a culmination of things. I'm fairly proud of myself for having the amount of Chambers KC that I have. Before starting my group Ironman, I had done maybe 30 raids total.
Between
Like,
all three. Like it was
a little bit of Toa just because we did it around the time that it came out. A few chambers because of bingos. But I'm like 212 KC, I think, in chambers on my Ironman. And it's 214. It's been so much fun to be able to like get good at chambers, learn how to mage skip, understand the mechanics where you can just like turn your brain off, teach other people how to do it. Like where I was 3 years ago in my account to where I am now, huge difference in just like my ability to do PVM. That would be a very close second, is like just my ability to get it to get my feet wet with the PVM aspect of this game. Because like Zoink, you don't know this, but like before I maxed and like before I started playing my Iron Man full time, I classified myself as a skiller. And I was the skiller, Oxie was a PVM guy.
Defense and Slayer were among his final 299s. It was rough. It was rough watching the maxing grind.
Yeah. So hundreds of hours in Zaya, but like I can't mage skip. It was bad. So before I would class myself as a skiller. Now I'm not even like a PVMer, but I feel like I'm more well versed in both aspects of that. So you will also be answering the question. So what is your your PVM achievement?
And just for laughs, because you've got experience in both, give us your best old school and your best RS3 PVM achievements. Because we're not going to know a damn thing about the RS3 ones, but the people who play both games, you got to flex on everybody. Start with old school first. Give the people what they know.
All right. So for old school, I would say probably it would be in leagues, just because I've never got an Infernal Cape in the main game and such. But in leagues, I managed to both get Infernal Cape, but also do the like 6 Jads challenge with all the little spawns. Like the league special challenge.
Shit, you did the leagues challenge? Shit, I didn't even do that.
I was like, I spent hours and hours just there failing. Like, it died once to the final, like with just 1 Jad left and nothing else to go, because I just was like so burnt out in my
slam
brain.
On the keyboard.
That's it. I was just had to go walk away. I was just like, okay, that's. But I managed to do that, and it was I was incredibly proud of myself for actually being able to finish it, because it was such a like intense focus, like constant switching, getting all the exact right times. It was just such a both relief as well as like a pleasure getting to then run around with the massive like volcano shield that you get from that as well. The
a ranger?
I was a ranger at the time. Yeah, so it was
Thank God. I was gonna say if you're a melee, you're gonna
psychopath. Sorry, so I did it both leagues that has happened. The first one I was a ranger. The second one I was melee. So that was really, really stressful.
You're a psychopath.
But I had
no way.
I had the noxious scythe though, so that thankfully, it's different, because if it was actually melee distance, throwing off the times, having to step back.
I was like, dude, you're a fucking maniac if you're doing the leagues challenge with melee only. That's crazy.
Yeah, no, thankfully did not have to do the whole stepping back with the timings as well. I don't think I'm good enough yet.
That's crazy.
But then RuneScape 3 did quite a lot of like the achievements for a lot of the bosses. I think probably one of the ones I was most proud of was probably for Raksha, which is some big dinosaur boss basically in RuneScape 3. And
dinosaur boss, you say?
Yeah, it's quite cool. It's quite cool.
That's like the Dagannoth Queens. I feel like almost that style of. From what I've seen, it's like, aren't there 3 of them? It's on the dinosaur island, right?
So there's 3 on the dinosaur island, but then there's another one which is Raksha, which is like a shadow corrupted
bonus
dinosaurs.
Okay.
Yeah, so a lot of dinosaurs, and this one it's like in very massive, like it's scary and rage phase, which there's a combat achievement where you have to like get it to the max enrage before you even start doing any damage to it, and then you have to do the whole fight in that enraged phase. And again, that was one that took me hours of just like banging my head against it and barely getting past like the first minute or something until eventually I managed to get it, and that was a massive relief to finally get that point. I think also just has to be like first fire cape in RuneScape 3 is like such a iconic moment of like, you know, it's many years ago now, but I still remember the like shaking I had and the excitement I had for finally being able to survive Jad and get that cape.
What'd you do it with?
I would have done that with a rune crossbow back in the day and just hammering away at it.
Yike. The RCB Jad is crazy.
Classic though. It's a classic.
Yeah.
That's how I got my cape on the GIM. I think I had a blowpipe for the main. I can't remember, but RCB is classic.
I did that shit with a blowpipe on the main, and that was the most stressful PVM I'd ever done in my life. My first fire cape took me 7 Jads, I think, to get there. It was rough.
That's crazy.
It was a lot of fun. Speaking of enraged bosses, while we're here, have you looked into the Doom of Macchiato at all?
I've seen the rewards because I know that they've been changed like 10 different times, and
Yep.
I know that it's just meant to be it gets harder and harder to deeper you go, and it's like multiple wave after wave of increasing challenge, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Which, I mean, it sounds like a cool premise. I like the idea of high-end PVMers much better than myself being able to really prove their prowess, like Port Khazard and such, where they're just like ridiculous. I don't know how they operate.
That guy's built different.
I just don't understand it, but he can do that, and I'm sure there'll be some ridiculous, like he's managed to delve down to like floor 10,000 and he's like 6 hour logged on it or something, and it's just going to be insane.
Reaching floor 100 with nothing in my inventory.
Exactly. And versus, but then also for like players like myself who are okay at the game, at least then you have like something you can kind of push through. Like I liked that with the Colosseum, where it feels like that really rewards you for just like slowly getting a bit better. Like you can do wave 1 most of the time, and wave 2 and 3 is it gets harder and harder quite quickly, but it's actually makes it achievable compared to like I guess Zuck, where
what you know about that wave 6 brick wall?
It's just Zuck is a whole different beast, I feel.
It's funny, Zuck is so much easier than Soul if you just had the final boss fight. Just the final boss, Zuck is a joke. You could probably run Zuck in the sim and get it on your second or third try. I've still not even killed Soul in the sim. Just because like the Soul fight is way harder, but like the mental strain of the Inferno, because realistically your first cape is 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
If you're not like already incredible at PVM, it's gonna be a long cape. The mental pressure to get there, misery, absolute misery. But that's why I think makes the Inferno harder, but not the final boss. I think if you can kill Zuck in the sim, it's pretty much the same.
I think that's definitely, I'd agree. Like, and also like a lot of the waves individually aren't too scary, I'd say, for Inferno. It's just the fact is that accumulation, and one mistake and you've lost 2 hours of your life. That really makes it hit hard. And I guess at least for, again, Colosseum, you can always get something as a reward. If you like, even if you make it like 2 waves in, you're like, okay, that's enough for me. I'm gonna jump out now. You still get, some nice kind of fragments and things like that, which makes it.
I've had my fair share of re-entry totemic bees wave 2 resets, so not doing that again. Well, we do appreciate your time here. We do appreciate the fun question. Thank you so much. It's fun to talk about, I'm the PVM guy. I love talking about PVM stuff. And again, not to self-promote any further, but if either you as in Zoink or you as in the listener, are like, damn, I want to do more PVM things, boy, do I have the Discord for you. Discord.gg/OSRSTNL. That's the one we're in right now. Hang out in PVM. Literally, we got people in the CC right now looking for Yama duos as we speak. So Come hang out.
We normally in this section we would go through and do a community question, and we'd do achievement of the week, which we're gonna pick back up next week.
Achievement of the
So-
week is gonna be disgusting next week,
yeah.
you guys. It's gonna be disgusting. It's gonna be great.
For that one, it'll probably end up being both Oxie and I doing it. Whenever we have the culmination of like many weeks, he usually tells me, "Hey, Michael, you're reading the 99s," because I can't talk for 2 hours straight. So, but yeah, that's gonna be the end of the show, guys. Zoink, I very much appreciate you. I'm gonna echo what Oxie said. Thank you so much for coming on the show. You're welcome back anytime. Like, I know we basically, in my mind, just scratched the surface of what we could actually talk about when it comes to what you do and like the intricacies of Quest Helper and all the different, like we had so many questions in the recording booth that we didn't even get to. I'm sure people listening have questions, so we may actually have you back at some point and just like do an AMA. It'll be a lot of fun. But thank you so much for coming to the show. We already plugged your Patreon. But is there anything else that you would want to plug for people listening?
No, I think I have a Discord for Quest Helper if you ever want to give feedback or like feature requests and things like that, which is just, Quest Helper Discord. It's linked in the top right of the side panel of the Quest Helper plugin, which you can just click. Same for Patreon button there if you did want to click that. And generally, thanks so much for having me on. It's been really a pleasure to talk to you both. And yeah, I'd definitely be up for doing an AMA or something at some point if that's something people would like.
Awesome. Well, that's going to do it, guys. If you want to, find anything else related to Xpwaste, we'll have all the links you could ever want down in the description, as well as all the links for the stuff you heard about from Zoink. If you want to visit his Patreon, his Discord, all of that will be down there as well. If you want to send us a postcard, the address will be there. Check out our YouTube, check out our merch store, Patreon, we've already mentioned that. But yeah, that's going to do it. Appreciate you guys so much for listening, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.